I'm Lesa Koski, and I'm here with Kim Geiken, and we are so thankful today that we have a family and marriage therapist, not just any, it's Brian Burns. And Brian, I don't know if you know this, but you were the guy that people always told me to use when I was first starting out in this, and I had people that needed some therapy, or a lot of times when I do a consult, people aren't really sure if they want to go through a divorce. And so then I send them to Brian, and he does something like discernment.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to let him talk about that more. But I just want to say, Brian, you really are well known in this field. And we're so thankful that you're here, because Kim and I really want to make divorce less scary for people. We want to kind of break it down, and having you here to kind of explain some things is going to be really helpful. And, funny story. I remember when I was first starting out, kind of not knowing as much what I'm doing, not that I always do now, but I had a case that was going to be a child inclusive case. I kind of didn't know what that was. And I knew that I had to use Brian, and I called him up and I was like, we got to include this child. So what do you, so I think they'll come to the meeting, and he's like, oh no, that's not how we do it. He said, I'll meet with the child. I'll find out what their needs are, and I'll represent that child in the mediation. I'm like, well, that totally makes sense. So you taught me there.
Okay.
I love learning from you, and I'm excited to learn from you today. So Kim and I are just going to ask you some questions, but I think I told you that what I love the most when people come on is to kind of hear their story about how did you end up being the family therapist, the go-to guy for all of us.
Well, thanks, Lesa. That's very kind. I don't think of myself as the go-to guy in the community, but I have been doing this for quite a while, so I can see how people may have heard of Brian here and there. But I have been marriage and family therapist since 2000, so over 20 years. And I do have a bit of a story. I started out, I knew from a young age that I wanted to be a family, young as in teenager, family therapist, marriage therapist. I come from an intact, really family-oriented, close-knit nuclear family. So I thought that was, the way to go, and great. And I need to make sure everyone else does that too.
So that was your calling, is that at that young age, did you see things crumbling around you and you knew what you had?
No, not at all. I just with that, I guess that kind of value system was instilled so strongly. And also, I don't want to get too lengthy in talking about me here, but
we don't care. We like to hear it.
I didn't realize this till later. I'm a pretty nosy, kind of like to be important. So if people talk to me about their problems, it made me feel better, which is not like what you want in a therapist. But I recognize that about myself, and we all need to do our own work. So that's an aspect I realized later. But so anyways, I went to school and graduate school and got a degree in psychology and in marriage and family therapy, and set out to save the world in terms of from a marriage standpoint. And I worked initially for 7 or 8 years, mostly with kids and parents, common childhood problems, ADHD, behavioral management issues, family stress, but right out of the gates, just bombarded with divorce. 9 out of every 10 families that I worked with was impacted in some way by divorce. Going through it, had gone through it, part of a blended family. So, this really naive way, I recognized that I needed to start to learn more about divorce and how that impacts kids, and get it on my radar, frankly, as anything, as something other than we need to avoid this at all costs.
Right.
So I started to learn and started to incorporate what I was learning into my work with kids. I went so far as to lead and teach and facilitate groups for kids, support groups for kids going through divorce. teaching classes for parents who are going through mandatory classes for parents going through divorce, parenting classes. And then I got burned out on kids and transitioned to full time. I got burned out on kids. Transitioned to working with parents because it's like this is kind of a shit show, and it's really affecting the kids badly. And I don't mean that in a judgmental way. It's just as a child therapist, it just got really heavy.
And Brian, that is, Kim's doing a beautiful job. That is one of the main reasons we love mediation, because you need to be united with your kids.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, yeah, we hear you, because it's going to be painful.
Because I just like I feel like I'm dealing with the aftermath. I want to be part of the solution more on the front end. And initially that was for me marriage, like to be really the best marriage therapist that I could be. So I dove into that. And I think got really confident and competent and did good work. But of course, then recognized, well, this isn't always meant to be. Like every marriage isn't meant to last. Not every marriage is going to be healthy for every person. And sometimes the best solution is a healthy divorce. So that about 12 years ago, I started to want to work with parents in the divorce process and figure out how I could do that as a therapist. And I could go on and on about the different, ways that I've discovered to do that, depending on how much you want to know. But
I am curious, because I've had couples that have actually come to me after seeing you, and they said, we went through discernment counseling with Brian Burns. Mm-hmm. So can you just explain? I don't know, Kim, do you know anything about discernment? No. Okay.
Nope, I'm not familiar with that.
Yeah. Okay, so I'll try to make this concise. Discernment counseling is for couples where one or both members of the couple are ambivalent about whether or not fixing the marriage is the right answer. So someone's unhappy, and typically then you'd go to marriage counseling, but sometimes it's gotten so bad or gone so long that somebody's not sure they want to stay in the marriage, but they're not sure they want to get out of the marriage. And so discernment counseling is intended to discern, to make that decision, to facilitate a conversation for each partner to make the decision for themselves, because it's an individual decision about whether or not to, work really hard at reconciliation. And through this conversation, we gather good information to make a plan that's likely to be successful, or more likely to be successful than had they not done discernment counseling to reconcile. The second option is separation or divorce, and that takes one person, of course, to decide. And when that's decided, or the decision, I try to set them on a course to a healthy divorce, meaning setting them up with mediation or collaborative divorce attorneys, or just good information. Please do not file for divorce without talking about it ahead of time.
Right.
Just basic stuff like that.
Amen. So you can help them with that first step of the mediation process to really be clear. And that's important to me, because I do value marriage. And this is the thing, I love having Kim here and you here, because I've been married for 30 years. So I get my stories from outside and can empathize and see it all around me.
Right.
But so that is the first, and I, like you, I wouldn't be doing this if I didn't know that I need to help people work their way. And we like to see them heal through this process. So that's big to us. So once they figure that out, and they have children, that becomes my next plan. And the next most important thing, and it usually is to the parents too. So do you tell me, and I know it's hard because everybody's different, but if you have like some bullet points, we know that working together, not saying something bad about the other parent in front of the child, that, you know, we know all these things that can help, but do you have any advice to help parents to ease their minds that they can go through this divorce process and their kids are actually going to thrive? You know, it's going to be painful, but what advice would you give them besides, you know, the obvious?
Really good question. I think, well, and I don't know how obvious this is to your listeners. It probably is to you, but what children need more than anything is to know that it's going to be okay. That things are going to be okay for them in the long run. And they don't know what that means. Nobody knows what that means specifically, but it's a feeling. And we know it when we see it or feel it. And from a parenting perspective, you need as a parent to show that feeling, to live that feeling, and to communicate that feeling that it's going to be okay. And I think that that takes your own work to know that even though this sucks, even if you chose the divorce, it's not what you ever would have wanted in your life. But that it's for even if you didn't want it, things work out, people heal. There's what you want in life and what you get in life, and they're not the same, and it's how you deal with it. And so communicating that to the children and to each other, I think, is really powerful. There's lots of details, right? The schedule and how decisions are made, and schools and transitions, and all of that is kind of, to me, I mean, it's important, but it's details that nobody remembers, and the kids don't care that much about anyways. What they really care about is, I mean, they do care.
Right.
In the end, what they really care about is to know that mom and dad got it, you know, like they can handle this, that I don't have to be the one to worry about it, even though I can be free to be a kid and complain and whine and
right. And I love that, because what you just said is going to make me better, because I don't know that I ever articulated it that way to parents. Quite simply, your children need to know everything's going to be okay. And so we need to coach them through it.
I'm hoping that's a reassuring message, and that parents feel like, yeah, I can do that. I don't know what the future is going to be like, and I really don't know for sure what the right schedule is.
Right.
And it's complicated, and it always changes, but I can figure out how to feel okay and communicate that to my kids.
You know, and Brian, that just goes, we had I have a business coach, and she talked about, and so if we can get those parents dealing with those feelings and, you know, kind of letting that come out, changing their thoughts. That's what the coach talked about, so that you can have those feelings, you know, being intentional about it. And Kim, I do think so. Kim has done an amazing job, Brian, with her divorce and parenting together with her ex. And Kim, I do think your kids feel like everything's going to be okay. And I feel like they maybe felt that way through it all, but you speak to that. I'm not sure.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I can't speak for them. And I've tried to communicate with my kids and be open, have the line of communication open as much as possible with them. I can tell that there's probably times that they didn't want to share particular things or maybe particular feelings with me. And as mom, it's a fine line of pushing, and you don't want to probe too much, because then they'll really not share, but you don't want to be absent and not ask questions either. So it's a delicate balance. I think overall that they're doing pretty well. We just did a college visit with our oldest.
Oh, wow.
So, and that I had said to my ex, you know, when we were there, I'm like, man, this would be a really terrible situation if we couldn't stand each other. So, and he agreed to it. You know, we just feel so lucky that we can be around, and the kids don't have to feel like they can't talk about dad to me and vice versa. And we can be in the same facility and around each other. So we're really lucky. Brian, have you noticed at all a shift over the years in divorce and how couples are dealing with it, that they're willing to work more together for the benefit of the kids?
I think I've been more closely watching the last 12 years, so that's my frame of reference. And I think, yes, I think that more and more there's an awareness out there about the effect of divorce on children and the, popularity of friendly divorce, or what did Gwyneth Paltrow call it?
Unconscious uncoupling.
Yeah, that's it.
Conscious uncoupling.
Yes.
Yeah, and the other title that I won't remember, the Netflix
Yes.
movie last year I couldn't even watch it. It was so painful.
Yeah.
But with Adam Driver and the actress about the bad.
So I'm like right in your boat, Brian, because I watched it. I loved it. I can't remember the name of it. So we'll put that in the little notes under the podcast.
Right. But yeah, I think the point of that is movie, or one of it, was to show how bad it can be, and the lawyers were awful, or one of them was awful. I had to stop because it was so bad. Yeah. So yes is the answer to your question. I think that parents, two shifts that I'm noticing, one is what you mentioned, Kim, and the other is do it yourself divorce, is that more and more, every year it feels like more and more higher percentage of clients are wanting to do it without professionals, which I respect. And I think if I were in their shoes, I'm a do-it-yourselfer too. So I get that.
Right.
Pros and cons.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And there are some people, I always give that as an option during a consultation, because, when you work with our practice with Kim and I, you do, in Minnesota and Wisconsin, we work on your divorce paperwork together. You'll get legal information, but you're not going to get any advice. So it's not really like someone's holding your hand. So it's a little bit of both. Yeah. It's a little bit of a do-it-yourself. And then a lot of times I can alert them to when they may want to call in an attorney.
Yeah.
And it's still saving time and money. And I think I always tell Kim this, and I probably said it before. Yes, you save a lot of money and you save a lot of time. But if I were to go through a divorce, I would do it this way, and I would pay more because of the integrity, because of the value of you're going to be running into that other person, and you're just going to feel better. You're going to heal. So I just think, and I'm not, I love mediation. It's all I do. I also I have lots of friends. We had Angela Hart on in collaborative law. I think I first learned about you from Angela. I think she utilizes you a lot too. So there are some other options. And we had Michelle Canese on. She was an attorney that wants people to not fight it out. She wants, I think there are a lot of attorneys kind of riding that wave as well. And I think, I don't want to but in this world today, I feel like there is so much conflict that this is one place that it could start to change things.
Yeah, totally agree.
Yeah.
And Brian, in your experience, have you seen any children of divorce come back as adults? And has there been, long-lasting impact? Even if it's a good divorce, I can't imagine it doesn't affect them. And that's one thing I struggle with as a parent, because I too came from a very nuclear, solid family. My ex did as well. So this was kind of a shock to our immediate families, parents and siblings too. We were the couple that nobody ever would have thought that it would have happened to. So, and as good as it is, I always in the back of my mind wonder what the long-term consequences will be on my kids?
I mean, it's a really good question, and I'm racking my brain as you ask, like, who have I seen that's now an adult that was a child? And I can think of 3 kids. I call them kids still. They're college age, roughly, late teens, early 20s, who were like middle school age and younger when I first met them. And I think, I don't know, probably 2 out of 3 had a good divorce and 1 had a pretty bad divorce. And I don't see a lot of variation between the 3 in terms of how they're doing. It's so hard to tell. I guess I'll answer your question in general, if that's okay.
Sure.
Because it's just my philosophy on things. And I don't sugarcoat divorce, right? It's okay, but it's not okay.
Yep.
Like, it's like the death of a loved one. Like, that happens. It's part of life. It's not wrong, but it's horrible. You would never want it, and it never goes away. Like, you don't get it back, what you lost. And that's what I think it's like for kids. Is the younger they are, the easier it is to process, because it's less heavy. But no matter what the age is, it's a major loss and change and stress and adjustment. So, I think that as humans, we grow accustomed to those kind of changes, those kind of losses, and learn the new normal. And so, an adult child of divorce, assuming that the parents generally didn't undermine each other and create a lot of division, assuming that, do pretty well. I mean, love their parents equally, have close relationships with the new partners, and I think all of that is pretty reasonable to expect. It's the one factor, and you're probably familiar with the research, but it just is overwhelming evidence that the one factor that is kids are not resilient against, or they can't heal from, is when their parents undermine each other and they feel put in the middle, and like they can't love both. They have to choose in front of each parent. That's not an emotional place that kids or adults, frankly, can process or heal from or feel okay about, and it's bad.
Yeah.
So that's what we really want to stay away from.
Yeah.
And you know what?
You can screw a lot of stuff up, and we all do as parents.
Right.
Yeah, right.
Oh, yeah.
On a good day.
Yeah, but don't screw that one up.
Yeah, that's a big one. And that's hard sometimes when, and even when I have couples that come in together and want to work through it, sometimes there's so much anger and hate. And I just have to keep begging them to make sure that they realize this and,
Yeah. And parents we're all human. It's not like you're perfect. And kids can pick up on when you're annoyed or frustrated,
right,
or pissed off at their other parent. And you may even say something really stupid that you feel bad about later. Just like I have 4 daughters, and I say stupid stuff and lose my cool and things that I regret. It's what you do after. It's,
right.
Acknowledging what you did and how that must have felt, and saying you're sorry.
Okay, so Brian, just right there when you said that made it less scary for me, because that is what we can tell our clients. So if you do get angry, let your kids know that is not what, just be honest with them. Apologize. Yep.
On that note, I tell this to parents every chance I get. So we make a parenting plan. It includes ideals like we will never badmouth each other in front of the kids.
Yep.
And I just say, okay, the expectation here is 75%.
You're right.
Not 100%. Like, because parents can get laser focused, and unintentionally sort of, and Kim, maybe you can speak to this, like, gather information, like what's your father saying and communicating about me, or anything about the other parent, and then hold that other parent to this high standard of behavior. That's just not, I don't think, no one would want to be held to that standard themselves.
Right. 70% of the time it works all the time, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like give the benefit of the doubt, be willing to forgive, own your own mistakes, don't be the police.
Yeah.
Like that's the best way to.
Ooh, I like that one. Boy, I mean, I feel like we should put that on a form. I might need to re-listen to this. Don't be the police, be forgiving. I mean, those are amazing things. And I think just getting, again, that awareness in their heads so that when it does happen, they can change it.
Yeah. And I get that this is not easy stuff. This is high level human behavior, that requires kind of a black belt, maybe in emotional functioning. And so, but it's like, it's never too late, and there's lots of years ahead, and make divorce is such a huge change. Make that change be a solution and a learning opportunity,
right?
Not just get the hell out, and stop bleeding. And that's hard. Again, I've not been through it. I've been married 25 years, actually 26 this month.
Whoops.
And she doesn't want to hear me talk, so there's no. So I get it. It's hard work, but worth it.
Absolutely. And honestly, I am so thankful that you were here. And I really do feel, I always think about what's my intention before I start. And it's like, I want to make this less scary. And I feel like you helped us do that. And I will keep referring people to you. And Brian, I can put in our little, on the episode notes, I can link your website, but if people need to get in touch with you, what's a good way?
Yeah, my website is mnrelationshiprepair.com, and email Brian at mnrelationshiprepair.com. And I'm happy to offer free advice or talk about what I do with people if they contact me.
Wonderful.
And it's been great to talk to both of you and to meet you, Kim. I hope we run into each other in the future.
Yeah.
Well, I'm thinking we may need to do another one, because Kim and I eventually are going to start talking about dating after divorce. And maybe you could,
Right.
Oh, I can get preachy.
We'll for sure have you back. Thank you so much, guys. It was so fun to chat with you today.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Yeah, you too.